Mrs. Brown, you've got a lovely daughter.
Her name was Peg Horton, WJNO's Girl on the Go. She did an interview show broadcast in segments throughout the day. I mean, she could interview a rock, and you would find it interesting. Also, when she recorded her show for broadcast, there were no second takes. It was all live to tape. No mistakes.
Thank you. Good morning. Welcome to another week and another day of Gal on the Go. And in our Meet WJNO series today, we have Jim Fergusson, one of our staff announcers. Good morning, Jim.
And good morning, Peg.
You really don't like to be called DJs anymore, do you?
Well, we've been called other things.
But as I understand it, a DJ, a disc jockey, primarily runs music, where you fellas do everything, don't you?
Right. We are very versatile people.
Yeah, you do the news and special production spots and what else? Straight announcing, of course.
You name it, we do it.
Jim, what is your regular shift on WJNO for the benefit of the listeners?
From 8 to midnight.
8 to midnight.
Show.
Uh-huh. I know you keep a very fast pace in that. Is it hard to get yourself in the mood at 8 o'clock, or do you find it easier than if you were signing on at 6?
Following the open mic show, you were in a very good mood, I would say. In a very up-tempo mood, and very sharp and witty. You have to be following that program. Or,
right. Okay, don't go away, Jim. Right now, I want to remind you that Howard Park American Station is your headquarters for the... Thank you. Our special guest in Meet WJNO today is Jim Fergusson from the, what do you call it, the Night Beat Show, Jim?
The Night Beat Show,
Night Beat Show from 8 to midnight.
From 8 to midnight.
Is that every night in the week?
6 nights a week.
Do you have a particular format for music that you follow on the Night Beat Show other than you would do in the daytime, for example?
Well, I call them the classics, the original...
the things that we're familiar with, and you have them in the original form?
Mainly the original 78 recordings.
Is it unusual for a radio station to have this number of these 78s to be able to fall back upon?
Most definitely.
It is.
Definitely.
Yeah, how did you get into radio, Jim? Most of the people I've talked to came in through the back door, did you?
Well, yeah, I started in the Goonie Weeds.
I haven't heard that before.
Well, it's my own little expression. Some people call it the sticks, you know, out in the middle of nowhere, as people usually do start off in radio. And then work yourself up, different towns, different stations, and till you get to a place you like, and there you stay.
That's right. And I presume you like WJNO?
For 2 years, and it's still have the same desire and same love for it.
Good. Don't you go away, Jim. Back with you listeners at 12:20 by now. Monday, cut 3. Thank you. Today's guest in our Meet WJNO series is Jim Fergusson, staff announcer. Jim, let's talk a little bit about your background. You're married to a very gorgeous gal, and what's her first name?
Martha.
Martha. And did you and Martha come down here to Florida for reasons of coming down to live here? I presume you're not from Florida originally.
Yes, I was born out in Pahokee, which is about 50 miles away.
Oh, so you're native.
Yes, one of the few.
Right. And then you've settled in the West Palm Beach area. I'm sure you like this area better, do you not?
Most definitely. The climate and the people, most especially.
And this 8 to midnight, now, what does this do to your social life? It must be very difficult to attend movies or anything of that sort, unless we could get Hayes to keep the theater open after midnight for you for a special showing.
It does curtail the night activities quite a bit. But do
you find it hard to unwind and go right home and relax after the show? Do you have to have a little while to sit around and talk, or drink a cup of coffee, or let down a little bit?
Well, usually I spend that with my hobbies, working with electronics.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yes, and so this is one easy way of relaxing.
I should say. Well, now don't you go away. Right now, I'd like to remind you that if you've dreamed of owning or giving a diamond watch, you should dream no longer. Thank you. Our special guest in our Meet WJNO series today is Jim Fergusson, one of WJNO's announcers. Jim, you spoke about having electronics as a hobby. In what category? Do you like stereo music? Is this the sort of thing that you enjoy?
Well, I have managed by hook and crook to get the old WJNO console from our engineer and rebuild it completely and have my own studios at home.
Well, for heaven's sakes, I didn't know this.
And so this is more or less the extent of my hobbies, it keeps me pretty well occupied.
Well, I would think.
Keeping it running and keeping it rebuilt.
Well, now, do you do any sort of production work in the studio?
Not as of this time, but I'm working on it now, trying to get the rest of the equipment, turntables, and a good tape recorder.
Well, I never have known anyone who had a radio station right in his own home. You see, you never know what you're going to find out when you start to interview staff members, do you?
Right.
Was this just sort of something that came along as an interest? Was it something that you'd planned to do?
Well, in radio, I've had a two-phase ambition. One was in engineering and the other in announcing. Mm-hmm. And I sort of pursue both of them at the same time.
I see. Do you have any preference as to what you do?
I like both equally well.
Uh-huh. Well, this is very wise, isn't it? Because if one should, by any chance, open and the other didn't, you'd be covered in both directions.
Well, still, that I have a limited knowledge. Not as much as a first-class engineer, mm-hmm. which would be mandatory for a broadcast station.
But this is something to work toward, isn't it?
Right, this is.
Right. Well, now don't you go away, you very ambitious person. Marge Spinney's Fashion Tree Shops are headquarters for smartly dressed women. Thank you. Today's special guest in the Meet WJNO series is Jim Ferguson, whom you hear on Night Beat from 8 until midnight, 6 evenings a week, I should say. Jim, let's talk for just a moment about one of the other interests I know you have, and that's in the field of community theater, isn't it?
Yes. Little work with the Janus Players.
Mm-hmm. And when we did the excerpt from Family Portrait, was this the first such thing that you had done?
That was my first stage
That was your
experience.
debut?
Yes.
Uh-huh.
And at that same opening night was when my wife gave birth to our son.
I know. So we always will have a special feeling for our little boy because he was born right, as you say, the opening night of the show, wasn't he?
Right.
And now, didn't you do something else after that, Jim?
Passed out, yeah.
Oh, now stop. I'm talking about theater now. Didn't you work with Jim Fleming over in Palm Beach?
I did some of his sound effects for his program, for his, let's see, I'm trying,
well, he did a show over there, I think, for the school, and you went over and helped him with the sound effects.
What it was, yeah.
Is this a field which interests you as far as recreation is concerned?
Matching sound and getting sound in the exact place it should be put in a particular play is always very challenging, I feel.
Mm-hmm. How about the acting department? Is this something that you'd like to continue?
Yes, and no.
Did you find it nerve-wracking?
At that particular time, yes.
Well, I think we gave you an unfair introduction while you're waiting for your son to arrive and you're learning lines and you have to be there because the show must go on.
The old line, good mother morning.
Yes, I remember that. Don't go away, Jim. Right now I'd like to talk to you about fabrics, which you'll find at Fabrics International or Fabrics International. Thank you. Our special guest today in our Meet WJNO series is Jim Ferguson, the Night Beat specialist on WJNO from 8 till midnight. Jim, I should remember what you named your son, and I don't remember. Isn't that awful?
James Lee.
James Lee. Mm-hmm. But we had a number of signs up welcoming him to the show using different names, didn't we?
Simon Says.
Yes, because you were playing Simon in the show.
Right.
Now, getting back to your announcing and your engineering activities, Jim, how would you feel about anyone listening who wanted to enter announcing as a career? Many people say, well, radio is so insecure, but to me it's been a very good profession. It's been very good to me and very good for me.
Well, at the present time, I have a group of younger people here in the Palm Beaches that are interested in radio, and we're trying to set up a small, we're trying to find a building, actually, where we can all get together mm-hmm. and sort of form a club.
Well, how wonderful. I didn't know this either. You see, I'm finding all sorts of things today that I didn't know about you.
There's 5 of us at the present time. Our main problem now is a building.
Uh-huh.
And
now what would you require? Do you want just a place to meet, or do you have to have a place to set up a studio?
Well, both, mm-hmm. actually.
Uh-huh.
We were thinking of having it in someone's home, but this would not be too good of an idea. It should be more of a place where the people can get away mm-hmm. from their home and relax and pursue the talents that they have. And
well, I'm going to ask you more on this in just a little while, Jim, because I think this is fascinating. Right now, I want to remind you that if your family has not spent a family vacation together... Thank you. Our special guest today on Meet WJNO is Jim Ferguson, the Night Beat Man on WJNO. Jim, let's talk a little bit more about this club that some of you folks are forming to learn more about radio. Is this more or less concentrating upon diction and about announcer's delivery, or is it concentrating on board work?
More control room technique than anything
Well, I think
else.
this is wonderful. It's so hard for someone to break in who hasn't had experience.
This is exactly the reason for this club. I know from experience how difficult it is.
It's very difficult
to get into radio. And this would offer a perfect in for the people that would be interested in it.
I think this is one of the most constructive things I've ever heard. You know, we've all gone through the bit that without experience we can't use you, and until somebody does give you a job, you don't get the experience. That's right. But I was fortunate enough to start in a very small station up in Michigan, and it was one of the stations where we did everything. You know, you went out and sold the account, and then you came back and wrote the copy, and then you went and scheduled it on the log, and then you went and voiced it on the air. And
person gains a lot of experience.
Oh, you do. But that experience isn't always available to people today, is it?
No, it's very specialized today.
Would you say that, well, I hope you'll say that you think that this sort of definite training and getting the experience yourself is better than academic training that you get in a college course, for example?
Nothing can ever compare with being on the air, actually.
That's right. And it's only by doing it you learn how, isn't it?
That's right. Trial and error. Mostly error.
Oh, no. Don't go away, Jim. The Knit and Pearl Shop is just enlarged for the 4th time. Thank you. Our special guest in Meet WJNO today is Jim Ferguson. Jim, have you ever been associated with the radio station when a hurricane took place?
This one.
I thought you were was it Cleo last year?
Well, I forget which one it was exactly, but one of them I remembered very well because I was trying to get to the station, and I wound out spending the eye of the hurricane in the telephone booth.
Oh, no, I didn't know that. You really did take shelter in the telephone booth.
Well, I ran out of gas.
Oh, you had quite a hurricane, didn't you, Jim?
Yes, I was very well prepared. And I planned the first thing, as soon as I got out into civilization, I lived pretty far out, that I was going to get gas. But there wasn't anything open.
They were all closed up.
Actually, all the roads where I live was blocked. And I wound up having to go about 15 miles out of my way just to get out of the neighborhood. And all the places were closed down, and finally I just ran out of gas and pulled over to the side of the road and went in the telephone booth.
So I think your first recommendation when hurricanes threaten would be to have a full gas tank.
Either that or make sure you have a good telephone booth.